Winter, Germany, 1944. An American pilot sits at a table in an interrogation room. He prepares for the worst. He knows what happens to prisoners. Screams, blows, dark basements. He clenches his fists and waits, but the door opens. A German officer places a plate on the table. A slice of pie, warm, homemade. "My wife baked it," the officer says calmly. "You should try it." The pilot blinks. He expected torture. Instead, he gets dessert. Within an hour, that pilot will reveal more secrets than weeks of beatings could ever force from him. And he won't even realize the moment it happened. Who was this man? An officer who never beat prisoners. When people think of Nazi Germany, certain names come to mind. Adolf Hitler, Heinrich Himmler, Joseph Goebbels. Names that became symbols of cruelty. And within that machinery of fear, there was a man who interrogated enemies without torture. His name was Hanns Scharff. He worked for the Luftwaffe, interrogating captured American and British pilots. Many would later call him the most effective interrogator of the Third Reich. Today we uncover the story of a man who extracted secrets not through fear, but through trust. Welcome to Echoes of Valor X. The story of Hanns Scharff begins far from the battlefield. East Prussia. His father was a German army officer and a veteran of World War I, decorated for bravery. But Hanns barely remembered him. His father died when he was not even 10. Hanns grew up in the wealthy household of his grandfather, a powerful textile manufacturer. A large villa, quiet gardens, and dreams that had nothing to do with war. He wanted to become an artist. He studied art in Leipzig, but his grandfather had different plans. Business, textiles. Soon Hanns found himself far away from Europe, in Johannesburg, South Africa, managing a branch of the family company. There he met Margaret Stokes, an Englishwoman. They married, they had children. Life seemed calm, but in Europe, darkness was already gathering. 1939, World War II began. Germany entered the war. Hanns returned home. Soon after, he was drafted into the army. He could have ended up on the Eastern Front, where millions of soldiers vanished in snow. But fate took another turn. He spoke perfect English, so he was assigned as a translator. Headquarters work, documents, reports. For many soldiers, this would have been lucky. But then everything changed. 1943. He was transferred to Auswärtsstelle West, a Luftwaffe interrogation center. Captured pilots were brought there. Americans, British, young men who had been flying over Germany only days before. And it was here that Hanns discovered his unusual talent. Most interrogations in Nazi Germany were brutal. Screams, beatings, basements. But Hanns noticed something. Torture often failed. People lied. He tried something different. He realized, if a man fears you, he will say anything to stop the pain. But if he trusts you, he might tell far more. He began talking to prisoners like friends. He brought food, took them on walks, joked, spoke about his English wife. Sometimes he even brought them to the zoo, and slowly the prisoners began to trust him. One moment still stays with me. A young American pilot sitting quietly began talking about his family, about his home, the life he had left behind. Tears ran down his cheeks as he spoke. He thought I was his friend, and in that moment he told me what really mattered. It wasn't forced. There were no threats, no violence, yet I learned secrets that would have been impossible to extract with fear alone. Even experienced officers fell into this quiet trap. American ace Francis Gabreski later admitted, Hanns was more dangerous than any torturer because you didn't notice the moment you started talking. 1945. Germany lost the war. Many officers disappeared. Many stood trial. Hanns Scharff's fate was different. He moved to the United States, to Los Angeles, California, and finally became the artist he had dreamed of as a boy. His company created mosaics, panels, decorative art. One day he was invited to Disneyland to create mosaics for Cinderella's castle. Think about that. A man who once interrogated wartime pilots, now decorating a fairy tale palace. Later, Hanns gave lectures to American military officers, Even officials from the Pentagon studied his methods: psychology, trust, conversation instead of violence. But his story remains complex. He never tortured prisoners, yet he served Nazi Germany, and the information he gathered helped sustain the war. War shows people as they truly are. Sometimes heroes become cruel. Sometimes enemies appear more human than we expect. The story of Hanns Scharff isn't about good or evil. It's about how thin the line between them can be. Even in war, human psychology can prove stronger than fear. If you want to hear more forgotten stories of World War II, subscribe to Echoes of Valor X. Sometimes the quietest stories of war are the most extraordinary.